Deadlock has taken over my life. I can't stop playing it, can't stop thinking about it, can't stop watching videos about it. It's sucking up all my free time and mental space, and in this video, I'm gonna try and figure out why. If you don't know anything about Deadlock, I'll give you a quick overview. It's a 6v6 competitive third-person shooter being developed by Valve, and it's a MOBA. One way to think about it is that Valve took Team Fortress 2, combined it with Dota 2, made it third-person, and set it in an occult version of 1920s New York. Right now it's an early alpha, so it's invite only, but that hasn't stopped over 100,000 people from playing it every day. Now, I have been known to spend time with shooters. I grew up playing Halo every day after school, I sank all my time into Overwatch when it released in 2016, and I dabbled in Valorant during COVID. I definitely wouldn't call myself primarily a multiplayer gamer in 2024 though. And then there's the MOBA of it all. I've always been intrigued by MOBAs, and I played a few games of Heroes of the Storm. But I've always been intimidated by the number of characters, and the isometric RTS style of control never came intuitively to me. And don't even get me started on trying to understand items. And so, Deadlock fits into a kind of perfect spot for me. It contains aspects I'm very familiar with from hero shooters like Overwatch, combined with the genre that I've been wanting to try. Throw in Valve's pedigree as a developer, along with the hype of a secret game, and I was definitely itching to try it as soon as I got an invite. And after a few games, I was hooked. Here were some of the things that initially stood out to me. First, I realized I really do prefer objective-based shooters. Yeah, getting kills is great and all, but if you have bad aim, a lot of shooters aren't very fun. Valorant is a perfect example. You can have great strategy and all the mechanics, but if you can't hit a headshot, you're gonna have a bad time. So in Deadlock, I love that I can spend time jungling, pushing up a lane, or running the urn to help my team, so when the fighting comes, we're set up to win. Secondly, the game just feels good to play. The movement has so much depth to it. You can double jump, dash, dash slide, dash jump, wall jump, zipline. The skill ceiling is crazy. The shooting also feels solid. Each character has a unique gun, and they all feel noticeably different. And even though the map is missing a lot of assets, it still has a really cool vibe to it, and I enjoy exploring its verticality. Another aspect that makes Deadlock feel satisfying to play is that you get noticeably stronger throughout the course of every match. Unlike Overwatch where your character is the same power level the entire time, in Deadlock you level up and buy items to get more and more OP. Leveling up always feels good in games, so the fact you get to do it every match really adds to the appeal. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we need to talk about depth. But in order to do that, we need to talk about the dreaded item shop. I hinted before that items are part of the reason I couldn't get into MOBAs, and that's for two reasons. One, there are too goddamn many, and two, their names don't tell me what the item actually does. Look at some of these. Tango, Maw of Malmortius, Regular Stick. Turns out this one doesn't actually do anything. And I won't lie, when I initially opened Deadlock's item shop, the first issue is very much still present. There are a lot of goddamn items in this game. But thankfully, Deadlock has a feature that lets you completely avoid this issue, and that's the build system. You can go here and find public builds that other people have made, and they're usually nicely annotated, so you can just pick one and smooth brain your way through your next match. But in a twist of fate, it's actually because of all the items in this game that I've become extra addicted. Let me explain. There's something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it describes how your knowledge of a topic relates to your confidence in it. When you're first learning about something, you gain confidence quickly. You start to think, I know quite a bit about this. I could even teach people. Then you reach the first peak and you realize there is so much more to learn, and you actually know next to nothing, and so you fall into the pit of despair. If you can push through that, you can work your way up to actually being an expert over a long period of time. I feel like with Deadlock, you start strong because it has those familiar hero shooter mechanics. But then as soon as you open the item shop, you fall into the pit. The question is, are you going to give up or push through? Thankfully, I decided to push through, and I was rewarded with the appreciation of how deep this game really is. You see, because there are so many different items, you can build the same character in multiple different ways. You can focus completely on gun damage, or focus on ability damage. You can make a build where you fly forever, or only use your ult over and over and over. There are currently 117 items in this game, but you only have 16 item slots, so that leads to thousands of possible builds. Another thing I appreciate about the Deadlock items is that they're easy to understand. The icons are very clean, and the name usually describes what the item does. Basic magazine, it increases your mag size. Bullet lifesteal, your bullets heal you. Magic carpet, of course, you fly around on a magic carpet. This has made the process of learning all the items much easier, and I've had such a good time making my own builds for different characters. The last great thing about learning the items is that you can more easily understand the builds the enemy team is using. At any point, you can look to see how they spent their souls, and so you can buy items to try and counter them. I like this more than swapping your hero to counter, because you can still play your main. You You just might need different items match to match to be successful. So I think I'm mostly covered by Deadlock has me addicted. It's objective based, so I don't need to have the best aim to be useful. Its movement, shooting, and leveling up all feel great, and the depth of items and builds have me always iterating on my characters to get them exactly how I want. And if anything I've talked about in this video has piqued your interest, I'd highly recommend you give Deadlock a try. Stay tuned to the end of the video if you need a code. But before I go, I want to briefly discuss the state of multiplayer shooters in 2024, because it's interesting to me that both Deadlock and Helldivers have popped off this year, when they aren't in your typical shooter genres. So, of course Battle Royales are still huge. Fortnite, Warzone, Apex, PUBG is even still popular. I don't see this genre going away anytime soon. Then you have tactical shooters, Counter-Strike 2, Valorant, and Rainbow Six Siege. Hero shooters like Overwatch and TF2, and lastly there are extraction shooters like Escape from Tarkov and Hunt Showdown. Looking at this list, there are two things I want to note. First, it's extremely hard to break into the multiplayer shooter genre. More on that in a sec. And two, arena shooters are missing. Yes, Halo Infinite still has some players, and Black Ops 6 will ship with their standard arena shooter mode, but the vast majority of players are into Battle Royales and other categories. Case in point, we just saw Concord go up in flames. Now, Concord had a lot of issues that led to its downfall, but I think one that's not talked about enough is that it was an arena shooter. And as I look at the games I previously listed, the thing they all have in common is complexity, depth, variety. And I think that's something that arena shooters are sorely lacking. I mean, the whole point of the genre is that you enter an arena is the same every time, with all the players balanced equally, so of course it can get stale. Sure, you might be able to counterplay with certain loadouts or power-ups, but it's basically just run around until you die. What I'm trying to say is, I think the player base of 2024 needs something more from their multiplayer games. And that's why I think both Helldivers 2 and Deadlock were able to break into such a competitive genre this year. And Deadlock isn't even officially out yet. Both of these games have something interesting to offer, whether it be the stratagem inputs and friendly fire shenanigans of Helldivers, or the genre mashing and build complexity of Deadlock. These games show, to me, that if you want your multiplayer game to make an impact in the modern era, it's gotta have some special sauce. I'm already worried that the portal mechanics and abilities of Splitgate 2 won't be enough to save that game, even though I was a big fan of the first one. That's all I have for you today. If you want to try Deadlock but haven't been able to get an invite, there's a Google form in the description of this video where you can submit your Steam friend code. I'll do my best to add you and send you an invite as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.